in 2 minutes. And then for the questions, unfortunately, we're not going to have time for like a lot of questions, probably a couple of questions per block, maybe 3. So I encourage you to approach the speakers later on if you want to know more about their presentation or their work. I mean, they're going to be around, and there is another break later, or later on if you're staying for the cocktail. So otherwise, you can also ask them for the email address, so you can ask, because, yeah, I would like to have a nice discussion, but we have many speakers. So that being said, we are going to start with economics. So it's Jorge Gallud and Silvia Segura. So you can come, so yeah, probably you can, you're going to be the first one. So you can just come. You can use this to pass your slides. So your slide is right the next one. Right. And then there is also a pointer later if you need it. All right. Your time is...
So what happened with the last financial crisis, and how can we avoid another one? And with our study, we try to help both institutions and banks with the challenge of understanding better the situation and find possible solutions. The situation before the financial crisis was of great facility and low interest rates, and these circumstances allowed banks to have great amounts of available cash, which leads to overinvestments and therefore an excessive risk. Risk is not bad, but must be carefully managed. We focus on legal provisions which are created depending on the probability and impact of the risk. And we analyzed 92 listed European systemic banks in the last 10 years. Systemic banks are those that are too big to fail. Santander or Novo Banco are examples. And most data are obtained from public databases, but we have to go down into the notes of the financial statements to find the legal provisions, and we use a regression analysis. So from a corporate point of view, the excess money and therefore the increasing risk will result in higher provisions, but managers have great discretionary control on its creation and can be reluctant to recognize excessive risk-taking. And we find a negative relationship between excess money and risk recognition through legal provisions. We test the influence of boards of directors using its independency and the legal environment, and our results support a positive relationship, a positive influence of both elements. And finally, we show the relevance of boards and regulation for the financial stability. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello. My research is about the use of the web page and Instagram by the tourist destination management organization to position the destination brand. Due to the recent technological change, the organizations are in need to adopting the strategies of action. And in this way, to be able to compete in the market to pass from the traditional economy to digital economy. The purpose. The main objective in this paper is to show the use of a web page and Instagram of tourist destination management organizations are carried out in order to position the destination brand. The problem is the majority of the studies are focused only on user adoption or adapting adoption of digital strategy or marketing. But very few studies focus to research about the organizational performance. And the research methodology an analysis of secondary data was made of the use in web page and Instagram of DMOs of 40 most visited countries of the world, according to the report to the World Tourist Organization. To measure the use and quality and web page and analysis content was realized. Carried out in which series of indicators were grouped in 5 stages: information, interactivity, transaction, multimedia, and usage relationship. And finally, to measure the presence and impact of DMOs on Instagram, 2 stages was defined. Acceptance, this stage includes the factors of followers and likes, and interaction, this stage includes the factors of publications, photos, and comments. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you want any questions, I'm glad to respond to you. Thank you.
So we have time for a couple of questions if you want, for any of them. Okay. Oh, sorry. So our next blog is Technology and Applications. So that's going to be Adrián Puerta from Universidad of La Laguna, Kevin Martin from La Laguna too, and Margarita Ferreira from Universidad de Aveiro, in this order. So you're going to be first.
Yes. Well, it's not exactly technology, but it's more like biomedicine. But what I'm presenting you here is the, well, I'm Adrián Puerta, PhD student from University of La Laguna, and I'm showing you our methodologies. The workflow of my group, the group I belong, BioLab from Institute of Bioorgánica, Antonio González, and we are focused on phenotypic drug discovery. That is a method when what we're looking for is changes in the cells, not targeting one specific target, searching for drugs. So it starts here with candidates that we synthesize or other people synthesize for us, with collaborators that want to have their product tested. And then we do some different assays looking for information. First, computational assays or bioinformatical assays that gives us the prediction of these compounds will bind to some determined targets or how they're going to behave in the cell culture. And then we do bioactivity assays. The first of all is always anti-proliferative assays, because if that results are not positive, we are not continue assaying the compounds because they are not interesting for us. So when we have these assays and this assay positive, we continue to other assays that secondary, that could be information about the pathway that could affect in the behavior of the compound, and the target identification. If all of these are going well, we have confirmatory assays that could give us the whole information. That is interesting because every step of this workflow interacts with other steps. That means that it's influenced, but at the same time is influencing the other things. What I mean with this is that results and data we have from here or here is going to teach us how we can do changes here to get good drugs in development and reduce cost in the research progress. Thank you very much. If you have questions.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kevin Martin Chinea. I'm a PhD student here in the University of La Laguna, and I'm going to talk about the topic of my thesis. Okay, the main goal is build a brain-machine interface, or brain-computer interface, and this system is a connection between the mind and an external device. Don't worry about that, because we are using a non-invasive device. Okay, and now we are focused in different metrics about functional connectivity, because the problem that the system the current system is that it don't have enough accuracy. So we will want to increase this communication pathway between the brain and the external device. One example of that is of these different applications. For example, games, marketing, neurofeedback, or some device control, like the prosthesis or wheelchair. The last two things, it's a perfect example because it could be applied to person with reduced mobility or just reduced mobility. Thanks a lot.
Hello everyone, my name is Margarida Ferreira and I am a PhD student in biomedicine at the University of Aveiro. Let me start my presentation by giving you some numbers. Did you know that every 3 seconds a new case of dementia is diagnosed? Or did you know that 1 in 11 people has diabetes worldwide? Or actually this one, you already know from this morning that the #1 cause of death globally is cardiovascular diseases. My main research interest is to try to understand how the information we have in our genes, the information that makes us who we are, contributes to changes across the lifespan and contributes to protein aggregation and disease. Because what these diseases have in common is that, #1, aging is a major risk factor for their occurrence, and the fact is that we all age, and the tendency is for us to be old for longer. And #2, some forms of these diseases occur when some proteins in our bodies lose their normal shape and accumulate in cells into toxic piles, toxic aggregates that eventually will lead to cell death. So my main interest, as I said, is to try to understand how gene expression varies across the lifespan and its contribution to these diseases. And as a kickstart to pursue this question, we thought, well, every day, huge amounts of genetic information is generated and made publicly available. So why don't we work on that? Why don't we take advantage of that? And this work, and that's what I've been doing, I have been using information publicly available online to identify the genes that change their expression the most with aging and to evaluate their functional implications. Although preliminary, our results are in line with what has been described so far in the literature, thus validating some new findings that may pop up and highlighting this new knowledge generation from existent data as a potential tool in biomedicine. Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Are you taking epigenetics into account?
Any preventive measurements or ideas for the people not so young?
So maybe.
What was the question?
Yeah. Any ideas for prevention? You see there is differences between young and aged?
Well, that's a topic for a lot of discussion. But of course, lifestyle, that's why the question of epigenetics pop up. Lifestyle has a major impact, and I'm not saying that genetics is deterministic, because it's not. But my main interest is to try to understand how the genetics contribute to these diseases. But lifestyle has a lot of weight in these issues, and of course, if you don't drink, if you don't smoke, if you exercise, all is good for you. So that's my advice.
So our next section is going to be mechanisms of disease, and there is Javier Sevilla from the University Autónoma of Madrid, then Ignacio, same university, Isabel and Leticia, they're all from the same university. So you're going to be the first.
Okay. So COPD, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is a highly prevalent pathology with no curative therapies nowadays and fatal comorbidities, including pulmonary hypertension, or PH. Though smoking and air pollution are considered the main causes for COPD, their effects on the pulmonary vasculature have been traditionally neglected and considered just an indirect cause of lung hypoxia during COPD. However, we wonder whether cigarette smoke extract, or CSE, might have an additional direct effect on pulmonary artery cells that could also explain PH development in COPD patients. Our results demonstrated that CSE exposure did have direct effects on human pulmonary artery cells, triggering a non-proliferative phenotype called cell senescence. And very interestingly, when we collected the culture media from these senescent cells, it alternatively induced cell proliferation on those cells still unaffected by cigarette smoke. Moreover, cigarette smoke completely abolished the natural contractile properties of these pulmonary artery cells as we measure the fourth generation by real-time traction force microscopy. And what about the complete vascular structure instead of individual cells? Well, by dissecting the pulmonary arteries from mice and exposing them to CSE, we observe a significant decrease both at the vasoconstriction and vasodilation responses of these arteries, suggesting that the whole vessel was becoming stiffer and stiffer due to the CSE exposure. Together, these results and others lead us to conclude that cigarette smoke might have a wider role on PH development secondary to COPD, specifically triggering the remodeling of the pulmonary artery, inducing both cell senescence and cell proliferation, and it alters as well the vascular tone homeostasis at the cellular and whole tissue level through various molecular mechanisms that, without a doubt, are worth exploring for better future clinical management of COPD and pulmonary hypertension patients. Thank you.
No, the other way. Good afternoon. Maybe you know about endometrial cancer because you have a close relative or friend who has suffered from this disease, because it's the fourth more frequent cancer in females in Western world. Even the incidence is increasing nowadays. But fortunately, around 75% of patients are classified as low-risk patients, which means they have a very good prognosis with a very good survival. But unfortunately, among these patients, we have a 10% of recurrence. And the bad luck is that we don't have any available tool to identify this patient, because with all the data we are using nowadays, they are classified as low risk, but they have a higher risk than the others. To solve this problem, we have taken all the endometrial cancer submitted for surgery in one of the main hospitals in Spain, which is Hospital La Paz, and we have done a full clinical characterization, a pathological characterization of these cases. So at the end, we have taken our group of low-risk patients, which are 250 patients, and we have taken the tumor of the relapsing patient and tumor from not relapsing patient, and we are studying at the moment at two levels. One is the protein level, doing proteomics, which is tandem mass spectrometry, and the other level is DNA level, doing exome sequencing. And then when comparing all the data obtained between the two groups, we want to reach our goal that is discover a new biomarker to predict relapse in low-risk endometrial cancer patients. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Isabel. I'm from Universidad Autónoma de Madrid, and I study the adrenergic system in the primate thalamus. The thalamus is a structure in the middle of the brain, which is very important because all the inputs coming from the outside world make a synapse here before reaching the cerebral cortex and becoming conscious. and these inputs can be modulated through this relay. On the other hand, noradrenaline is a modulatory neurotransmitter, which makes the neurons more likely or less likely to respond depending on the receptor it binds. Noradrenaline in the thalamus is important because it can participate in the modulation of those inputs we were talking about before, also because it is involved in the action of some anesthetic drugs, and also some alterations of the noradrenaline system in the thalamus have been described in some pathological conditions, such as Parkinson's disease or schizophrenia. This is why we want to describe the noradrenaline axons, that are the structures that bring noradrenaline to the thalamus, and the noradrenaline receptors, both alpha-1 receptors that make the neurons more likely to respond, and alpha-2 receptors that make the neurons less likely to respond. And here you can see some example of our results. You are looking at four different maps from half of the thalamus. Here is the midline, and here is the lateral side. And these four maps are from similar anatomical levels. And to the left, you can see the noradrenaline axons using two different markers. And to the right, you can see the alpha-1 receptors, which are the excitatory ones, and the alpha-2 receptors, the inhibitory ones. And as you can see, the distribution is quite heterogeneous, but it's quite coincident for axons and receptors. And there are some nuclei which are high in axons and receptors, and those nuclei are related to limbic and associative circuits. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, I'm Leticia and I'm going to talk to you about obesity. Obesity is a condition which has a prevalence and incidence that has increased worldwide in the last years, and that's been mainly due to the fact that we have moved from a context in which there was an equilibrium between what we eat and what we expend into a situation in which we eat more than what we expend. And in my PhD project, I'm trying to understand the role of a protein, which is P38 alpha, in skeletal muscle in this condition, in obesity. So we studied the role of this protein, and we found there were local changes when when P38 alpha is not present in the mice, which are the ones in blue. And this situation in the muscle resembles the condition that a mouse that is exercising will have. And we first found that these mice, which lack this protein, have increased food intake, so they eat a lot. And even in that situation, they are protected against high-fat diet-induced obesity. And they are also protected against diabetes, since the muscle, among other organs, is uptaking glucose in a better way. And they're also protected against liver steatosis, which is the pathological accumulation of fat in the liver. As you can see here, there's less fat in the liver. So we were wondering which was the primary cause of this whole body phenotype, and we actually found that these mice have enhanced locomotor activity. So these mice are moving like crazy, and that is the reason for the higher energy expenditure and therefore the protection against obesity. And now we are trying to understand how just the lack of a protein, P38 alpha, in a skeletal muscle is able to increase that much the locomotor activity of these mice. And we have hypothesized that these muscles release a factor which is termed a myokine that goes to the brain and causes this higher locomotor activity. So we are now working in trying to find this myokine, which will be a very, very essential to understand the whole body phenotype. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. If you have questions for any of them, come here maybe to answer.
To measure the dosage. If I understood correctly, you were asking me how do we measure the dosage we use on the cells, or the doses of cigarette smoke? Mm-hmm. I didn't show that on the slide, but we have checked for molecular markers of cell senescence like P21 and P16, and as well as beta-galactosidase activity. And those were positive from this cell, on these cells from which we collected the conditioned media. Yeah, that was something that came to us after we have already performed the experiments. But for what we have found and with our in vitro results, beta-galactosidase are still on human cells, came to appear after 48 hours or so of staining. And the vascular structure normally doesn't last that much long outside the body in culture, and so because the cells begin transdifferentiation, and so we couldn't perform such or that much longer treatments with our ex vivo experiment with the arteries. But that would be, yeah. Thank you.
We are doing several things. One of them is doing metabolomics, which is comparing which are the metabolites present in the blood from both types of mice. And we are also working with a model with myocytes, so the cells from the muscle, and to see what factors are secreted in the medium from these cells, and doing proteomics afterwards. And with some algorithms, you can compare which are the proteins expressed by ones and by the others, and to see if there is some factor that could be involved in the phenotype. That's something that we are working on now. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. So our next section is I think the most popular one. We have 6 speakers. We have Judith Hernandez from La Laguna, Emmanuel Capella from Aveiro, Mariam Colani from Aveiro, Raquel Guerrero from University of Malaga, Laura Contreras from the Dana-Farber Institute in Boston, and Margarita Rosa from Aveiro. So, Judith.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'm going to talk to you about my research, which is focused on the synthesis of new potential anti-cancer agents based on natural product structures. As we know, cancer is one of the most worrying diseases worldwide. In the last years, the search of new and more efficient drugs have been one of the biggest challenges in the organic chemistry. And the natural products have had an important role in the drug discovery field. In the drug discovery field. And among the natural products, flavonoids is a big family of naturally occurring polyphenolic compounds that are well known because of their beneficial effects on health due to the remarkable spectrum of pharmacological activities. So these are, and among the flavonoids, there are the chalcones that are the unique open-chain flavonoids. So it gives them a greater versatility in their activities. On the other hand, the 1,2,3-triazoles containing compounds have a broad variety of bioactivities too. So they're used as a tool to design new functionalized flavonoids, provide a collection of novel and interesting structures. So based on previous research, and for all this, our objective is to create a library of new triazolic chalcones by means of the Huisken reaction between chalcones with an acid group in their skeleton and different terminal alkynes. This is an example of click processes that are reactions easy to perform, modular, wide in scope, and high yielding. And on the other hand, the first products that we have synthesized have been tested against some specific human cancer cell lines, specifically HL60 leukemia cells. And some of them have shown half inhibitory concentrations between 3 and 4.1 micromolar that are very promising results to continue in this research. And this is all. Thank you very much.
Can I start? Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emanuel Capella, and I'm currently a PhD student in chemical engineering at University of Aveiro. And today I'm here to talk with you a little bit about biopharmaceuticals. And I'm pretty sure that you already heard about monoclonal antibodies. And so they are remarkable therapeutic agents for the treatment of several diseases. And sometimes they are the only available therapy for the treatment of a specific disease. However, their extraction and purification processes are still very expensive, and they are very complex since it comprises the use of several steps, some of them being chromatographic steps. They are the main center of costs of the whole process, and they can represent up to 80% of the final product costs. So in order to try to overcome this bottleneck, in the University of Aveiro, we developed a new and alternative platform for the extraction and purification of monoclonal antibodies from cell culture supernatants based on a first stage of aqueous biphasic system, in which we can recover monoclonal antibodies in the top phase of the system by using a biocompatible ionic liquid. And the other protein impurities are mainly retained in the opposite layer of the system. Then a second ultrafiltration step can be applied, so the ionic liquid can be recovered and reused in a new extraction cycle, while monoclonal antibodies can be recovered in an appropriate formulation to be further applied in therapeutic purposes. So by using this platform, we were able to diminish all the costs associated with the production of this kind of biopharmaceuticals, and we can promote the use of this kind of therapy as recurrent therapy. So antibodies can save lives, and I do believe that we are in the top phase of life. So thank you very much.
Is that your slide?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay, so hi again, I'm Mariam, and right now I'm going to talk to you about a very scary subject, which is vision loss, age-related macular degeneration. But what is the macula? The macula is this teeny tiny structure in the back of your eyes that allows you to have 20/20 vision, and it basically takes the picture that it's sent to your brain. And the macula is formed by two pigments, which are lutein and zeaxanthin. And these pigments have the ability to protect against phototoxic radiation. However, we are not able to synthesize these pigments in our bodies, so we are dependent on them upon a dietary intake. But because of all of the steps from the digestion to its transportation to the eyes, they're actually not so bioavailable. So my proposal is the development of a localized delivery system of these pigments directly to the eye. But firstly, I needed to find a good source of these pigments to have a big production. And that's how I met Dunaliella salina, which is this diva-like microalgae that produces very large amounts of these two pigments. And so I couldn't fail to recognize its potential. It is a new, green, natural, and economically viable source of the pigments. And so firstly, we need to assure the maximum production of the pigments, which is the carotenogenesis that I have right there. And following, I have to pursue a careful selection of extraction and purification steps with greener and environmentally friendly solvents. And finally, the most challenging part will be to integrate these pigments on a lens that will allow the facilitated transportation of the pigments to the eye, actively serving as a prevention method for the degeneration of the macula. So right now I've been working alongside my algae to produce this biorefinery, but can you help me to develop the final product? I'm hoping for any collaborations.
Hello, my name is Raquel, and I am now studying a master's degree in biotechnology in the University of Malaga. I am now working in a preclinical trial to develop a new therapy for multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic disease characterized by an alteration in the immune system that causes an inflammatory process that damages the central nervous system. The therapies available nowadays are oriented to immunomodulation, but they are not effective in all patients. Both the use of first-line drugs like beta-interferon and more innovative therapies like mesenchymal stem cells present limitations. In this context, we propose to use the secretome and exosomes derived from mesenchymal stem cells genetically modified to produce beta-interferon. And what are exosomes and secretome? Well, they are proteins and vesicles secreted by the mesenchymal stem cells and that are used to communicate with each other. Well, the use of the conditioned medium with the secretome and exosomes is presented as an excellent alternative as it provides more immunocompatibility, and also its direct administration will suppose better biodistribution and bioavailability of the secreted beta-interferon. Therefore, the objective of this project is to characterize and evaluate the therapeutic efficacy of the secretome and exosomes derived from these cells in animal models of multiple sclerosis. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, so after an organ transplantation, there is a strong immunoresponse that, if not controlled, results in organ rejection. Nowadays, the use of immunosuppressive drugs allows to control this immunoresponse and tolerate the organ. In fact, this treatment has dramatically improved certain outcomes of organ transplantation. But the long-term outcomes is a completely different story because these drugs have associated very important side effects as strong infections or even cancer. So there is a need to develop alternative therapeutics. We propose to use immunotherapy on regulatory T cells. The idea is to use the patient's own immune cells, specifically the regulatory T cells. There are cells that keep the immune system in check, avoiding excessive immune responses that will happen exactly when an organ is rejected. So in normal conditions, we have a balance between the regulatory cells and the inflammatory cells. When an organ is rejected, we lose the balance. There are more inflammatory cells. What we propose is to add more Tregs to recover that balance. How do we do this? Well, what we do is we collect cells from the organ recipient and pieces of cells from the donor, and we culture them together in the presence of belatacept, that it's a drug that blocks one important activation signal in lymphocytes, the co-stimulation. The result is the expansion of regulatory T cells that we can administer back to the patients. These cells are from the recipient, but are specific to the donor. That means that they will suppress specifically the immune responses against the organ, but will allow the patient to fight against viruses or tumors. We have translated this already into the clinic in a small kidney trial, showing that it's safe and it's feasible, and with promising results. Usually, the kidney transplant patients need 3 drugs, 3 immunosuppressive drugs to tolerate the organ, and these patients are doing great with very low doses of only 1 drug. And now we just open a new trial in liver that we hope will help these patients to live longer and happier without the need of any immunosuppressive drugs. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Like this. Okay. Can I start? Okay. Raise your hand if you know somebody that has or had lung cancer. Well, even if there are no hands raised, that is the most common and the cancer that kills most people worldwide. Well, unlike breast cancer and prostate cancer that has any other alternatives as pre-diagnosed, most of lung cancer patients are already diagnosed too late when they have only a few months of life. So I do believe that the way to go and to improve quality of life and obviously lifespan of cancer patients overall is pre-diagnose the disease as early as possible. So that's precisely what I intend to help, at least during my PhD. So as you can read, New Perspectives for Lung Cancer Early Diagnosis, that's precisely. So I intend to use in my PhD an aqueous biophysics system in order to concentrate lung cancer biomarkers that are in low concentrations in our blood, and at the same time remove the high abundant ones that tend to mask them. So with that said, after the concentration, I intend to use just regular quantification methods, ELISA assays, and chromatography ones, in order to know if the levels are too high or too low. If the levels of lung cancer biomarkers are high, then the patient needs to conduct so the diagnosis should be confirmed by imaging techniques. And after that, the regular treatment available. Also, this technology can be used as a follow-up if the patient was already submitted to a surgery or a sort of a treatment, in order to know if the treatment was effective in terms of response. And after that, we can make sure if the patient is really okay. Obviously, this is a challenging work, and I have 4 years to do it. Wish me luck. Thank you so much.
Any questions? From which speaker? Laura?
Yep. How much does the effect of infusion of T-Rex long?
That's a good question. So in the small trial in kidney, there was only one infusion of cells, only 1 million T-Rex per patient, and 3 years, that was 3.5 years ago, and they're still perfectly fine, doing great with only one drug.
Sometimes it happens that you have to switch on the immune system of the patient. I think they do with lowering the dose of the antibiotics or the drug you said they are.
The immunosuppressive drugs?
Can you switch off the T-Rex in a way?
Yeah, I mean, the immunosuppressive drugs affect the T-Rex in general. That's one of the problems of these therapies, that all these patients are taking immunosuppressive drugs even after the infusion of the cells, and those drugs are going to affect the T-Rex. What we are doing in the trials that we are running now is to choose the drugs that we know affect less to the T-Rex, because these immunosuppressive drugs have like very different mechanistic ways of shut down the immune system. So we pick the ones that we know do not affect the T-Rex. But yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, I have at least two that I'm obviously working more. Is pentractin-3, that is one of the main associated with lung cancer, and the other one is carciom, I don't know the name, but the acronym is the CA. So these ones are the most related with the lung cancer. But I have plenty of them. Sorry? No, this is supposed to be used in the human serum. So right in the human blood, after just separate treatment like a centrifugation or so, just separate the cells, it should be used straightforward in the system.
I have a question. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
How long it takes to produce the culture assessment in vitro?
3 days. It's a very short protocol compared with other ones that are published. It's a 72 hours culture. It's very fast.
And how many cells do you need to inject into the patient?
So in the first trial in the kidney, we have limitations with the cell production. So we use only 1 million cells around. So we infuse everything that we got. So it was around 1 million per patient. Now in the new trial in the liver, we're trying to increase that dose. And the idea is to get to 5 to 10 million cells per patient. But yeah, the limitation is that there are not many cells. The methods that we're using to isolate those cells are not perfect. So yeah, we will infuse as many cells as we get, but we are expecting around 10 million per patient.
This can be used in different organs, not just for the kidney and liver?
In theory, yes, but each organ needs some preclinical work. For example, for the liver, we are taking the cells of the patient after the transplantation, so those patients
are already in immunosuppressive drugs, so we needed to double check that we can make the cells with cells that are already in immunosuppression. Or most of the donors are cadavers, so we cannot get peripheral blood from those cadavers, and that's what we usually use to generate those pieces. So we have to find an alternative way to do it. We use spleen. So every organ needs a little tweak, yes, of the protocol. But yeah, ideally, yeah, we can use it for many ones.
Thanks. I have a question for Marian. At which stage of disease do you think you can apply this treatment? Because AMD is so complex. At which stage of the disease do you think you can apply that treatment?
So this will be for you have 3 different stages of the disease. Early stage is very hard to identify, so I don't think it's feasible. But it's at the medium stage that we can act on. So it's when you still have the macula that it's active, so it's not really degenerated to a further extent. So the carotenoids could be implemented in the structure and try to protect. And even if it's not treatable, at least it will stop the further development of the degeneration.
I'll talk to you later. I do AMD. Thank you all. All right, next is nutrition and toxicity, and we have Ana Libertad Garcia from La Laguna, Ruth Rodriguez from La Laguna too, and Alfonso Peñarroya from University of Oviedo. Ana, you're first.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ana. I'm doing my PhD here at Universidad de La Laguna about the use of bioactive compounds in important crops of tomatoes, soja, and corn under abiotic stress. Specifically, I study the drought and saltier stress because now, with the climate change, this stress has a greater impact in the agriculture. So, with the collaboration of Immunosuppressive, I will study these compounds that induce tolerance to salt and osmotic stress. And yes, I know that these compounds induce tolerance, but I want to go a bit far away and see if these compounds I can apply in the field and improve the yield and the quality of the crops. Because at the end, this is what the farmers want. In fact, with the collaboration of Trico Farming Research Company, I want to see if I can improve the production of secondary metabolites in the San George plant, which is a medicinal plant that produces hyperforins and hypericin. So if you want to know more about this work, my email is here. And if you want to do some questions, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruth Rodriguez. I'm a PhD student at the University of La Laguna. My thesis is focused on the development of new analytical methodologies for the determination of endocrine disruptors in environmental and agri-food samples. These substances are a global concern because they can cause human diseases such as cardiovascular, respiratory, or genital disorders, among others, even at very low level of concentrations. Based on that, and taking into account the new trends in green analytical chemistry, my research is focused on the application of new miniaturized extraction techniques combined with novel nanomaterials like graphene oxide, carbon nanotubes, or metal organic frameworks, which could allow environmental-friendly, cheap, and fast sample pretreatments for the extraction of these organic contaminants. For this reason, it's important to develop highly sensitive and selective methods like chromatographic techniques coupled to mass spectrometry to monitor these contaminants in complex matrices, like food or personal care products, among others. The future results will be used to to inform the population about the level of contamination to which we are exposed in daily life. Thank you so much.
So hello, my name is Alfonso Peñarroya. I come from the Epigenetics and Nanomaterials group of the Health Institute of the Principality of Asturias. And today I want to talk about a beautiful project that we create innovation from basic research. So I believe it's the right place to present it. So I'm going to be talking about genotoxicity, which is the capability of a compound to produce damage on DNA. So the issue is that today, nowadays, we are generating new compounds every day, and we need to screen for the genotoxicity because we are going to be exposed to them. So the current framework is that we have to perform a lot of different multiple tests to check the activity, the genotoxicity of the different compounds. And sometimes they are not the compounds themselves, the one producing the damage, but the metabolites. So we have to mimic this situation using rat liver extract, which is expensive and not really ethical. So we came up with a solution, which is we use hepatic cell lines with metabolic activity to check for the metabolites. And we came up with a system. We create a reporter cell line using luciferases, and a molecular switch, which is the promoter of a gene that responds to genotoxic activity, which means when we expose cells to a genotoxic compound, then the switch will be on, and the luciferase will produce, and there will be light in the cells. So we will get, in a simple way, to know if the compound is genotoxic or not. So here we see that there's some damage on DNA, and therefore luciferase is expressing with light, but not in this case, so we don't get light in this case. And of course, we don't need to use S9 rat liver extract. And thank you. That was all.
Any questions for any of the speakers? I have a question for you. When you said you get light, I mean, I work with photoreceptors, so to me light means light. So what does mean to you, light in the cells?
Light,
how do you measure
in this case, okay, the protein is expressing, and then we have to add a different set of reagents, which is ATP and stuff, and luciferin, so we catalyze the production of light. It's emission of photons, and then we have to measure the intensity of the emission. Actually, the system includes two different kinds of luciferase. One is induced by the genotoxic activity, and the other one is constitutively expressing. So we could do a ratio and have a better understanding of the process.
Cool, thanks. Any more questions? Okay, so we have our last section. That's going to be climate change. Sorry, thank you. So our last speakers are Sara Uzquiano from University of Valladolid and Alan Pino from Universidad de Sevilla. And
okay. Yeah. So, hello. Who would like to know where's the impact of the decisions we take today, so we could take one way or another, right? So that is what my thesis is about. To know today how it's going to be our force in the future with the management we're doing today. Because, as you know, trees take their time to grow, right? But the thing is that we need answers now. So here we have two issues. On one hand, we are told to preserve forests because they are our greatest allies to mitigate climate change. But on the other hand, we are told to use wood because it's a renewable resource. So it seems like we have a conflict of interest, right? Preserve or cut, what to do. Lucky for us, nature is wise, and you have to know it exists a balance point where we can do both. How do we find that point? Thanks to math. We have equations that thanks to that, we have already found that balance for monospecific forests where we only have one species,
But what happened with those forests that we have more than one species, the mixed forests? Here we have to add a new variable, which is the interaction between species. And here it comes the problem, and so my thesis. It seems that mixed forests have a more stable structure faced to climate change. But due to that complexity in their structure, it's hard to know it. Once more, we are lucky, and technology has arrived. Let me introduce you to the terrestrial laser scanning. This device provides us a three-dimensional image of our forests, and we can finally enter to there and discover what is happening inside and find the balance point, so we can know today how it's going to be our forests in the future to get as much resources as possible, and what is more important, at the same time, we are preserving them. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I'm doing my PhD thesis at the University of Seville in solar cooling for industrial processes. So first of all, in Europe, half of the energy is consumed is used for either providing heating or cooling. Cooling is more difficult and expensive to supply than heating. For example, nowadays it's very common to have an air conditioning unit at home, but 50 years ago it was very unusual. Compared with heating, that you can just burn fire, and it's available since Stone Age, for example. Also, industry are very intensive in the use of energy, and which usually comes from fossil fuels that emit greenhouse effect gases. So we need to find a solution that reduce cost and decrease the use of fossil fuels. We can supply cold from the sun. And it's not very intuitive because we always relate the sun with warmth, but there are refrigeration machines that are driven by heat instead of electricity, and we can provide this heat with solar collectors. So in my thesis, we are generating different scenarios where we try to optimize the sizing of this system instead to reduce the cost of the investment, which is the main drawback for renewable energy system. This way, we can turn from very polluting industry to solar collectors and provide cooling. This way, we built a path for the industry to become environmentally friendly. Thank you.
Can you elaborate a little about the trees? Like example or something? The relation time or...
Yeah, well, in the... Yeah, here, because this is a very short presentation, but as you can see here, before what we do was to mimic the geometric forms. For example, for a pine, we usually use cone to represent the upper part, and a cylinder to represent the trunk. But thanks to the terrestrial laser scanning, we can have the real shape of the trees, so we can minimize the error in the estimation. And also we can, as you say here in the picture, we can enter in 3 dimensions and see how it really affects the interaction, if they grow better or not. So, I don't know. Yeah. That's, sorry, what's the...
Part of my life is on doing like this. I mean, I planted thousands of trees in my...
And...
I will be very happy later.
Yeah, okay.
In a very specific and vital way. Congratulations for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we can tell later.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Any kind. You just need. Yeah, we are developing that algorithm right now, but it doesn't matter. The only important thing is the software, you know, and the images. So.
Are you taking into account not just the tree, but the animals and all the interaction that they can have?
Not in my thesis. I'm just taking into account the competition between the species, but the work I'm working in. They take into account the soil and also the animals. So we are a big group, but we are all focused in some topic. But of course, nature has a lot of components that we have to take into account. Yeah.
So it's kind of related to the previous question. So I guess there are two main drivers in forest. One are above ground processes, and then you have below ground processes like remediating interactions, competition, like that. Competition for resources, for life. Do you have an intuition whether above ground processes are in this case more relevant than below ground processes because life is a more limited resource or things like that?
Yeah, in the end, everything is related. So I cannot tell you if it is more important what I am studying here in the upper part or what is in the soil. Both are really important. If I. Yeah, as I'm telling, I am part of a big group that we are studying everything together, you know. So, and what we are seeing is that in the end, everything is related. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. So this was all for presentations. I would like to introduce you to my co-workers today. So they are going to help me to evaluate all the speakers that we had. So we have Itzazo from SUNY Institute in New York. She's a mentor, and she's been mentoring students for like 4 or 5 years now. Eva, she works at Cita in Prague, and she's going to be another evaluator. She's also a mentor, right? And then we have Sarah. She's the director of the behavioral science program. And we have you, Ricardo. Ricardo, I had a note here about you. You're at Princeton. Yeah, he's very young. I thought you were a mentee, and it's like, this guy is like a super bright Princeton researcher. Okay, so later on we'll announce the awardee today. So I think you can come and do some.
Okay, so as you can see today, everything has been about innovation, innovation, innovation. The open table was talking about innovation in terms of Spain, Europe, and how we are catalyzing global collaborations to bring innovation. Then we were focusing, keynote speaker, innovation again, how it relates to the work that you are doing, pitch, the pitch elevator for the Shark Tank, also innovation and bringing collaborations together. With this last session also, we wanted to give you the opportunity to show to all of us what you are doing, because that brings some ideas to also try to collaborate together. I found really interesting some of the work that you are doing, and I would love to talk to you after this. So this is the idea. You are thinking that you have one approach, maybe you can collaborate. It's a way to show what you are doing. So now we are going to move forward to the next session that is about innovation. Guess what? So this one is the idea is to learn from innovators who are in different continents of the world. And to do that, we are going to connect with one researcher who is in Qatar. This is a very important center for the people who is doing, well, alto rendimiento. Then an entrepreneur who started a foundation and now is starting a company in Boston. We have a Rich Foundation, we have Qatar, and we have David Argumosa from Singapore. So the idea is now to relax, to enjoy. You did your part, you did an excellent job, and to learn from other people and ask them questions. What were their challenges? now think that maybe you are going to start from one idea to a company, so what to expect, what to not expect, so this will be your moment to learn from them, okay? So now we are going to connect to Zoom, and hopefully the internet is going to be working fast enough. Okay. 5, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1. This roundtable will be moderated by Borja Santos. At this point, you know Borja Santos very well. He is driving the international expansion at IMFAHE. Okay, look at this. Everybody's here. Hello, everybody. So Borja, please join me. Give a big applause to all of them. Okay, it's difficult to see the audience, but maybe we can turn the computer and we can show you. Oh no, we will lose the connection. Okay, so just to give you a small overview of what is going on here. Can you see it? Yes, here we are. Okay.
You can connect with another computer.
So now we can have it.
So welcome everyone to this table called Global Innovation Connecting Ecosystem or Innovation in the World. So I would say that although we have been speaking about innovation all the time, how you can do this connecting people from very different places. And this is actually not very new because this is what you have done in the Shark Tank. You have been connecting yourself with people of different universities of Spain, with a mentor that is working abroad. So actually for you, it was a first test of the benefits and the challenges that this kind of innovation and this kind of connection face, right? So the three speakers that we have today here, they have 4 things in common. They work regularly, because some of them are moving frequently, in ecosystems of innovation. The second thing is that in the initiatives and startups that they have started, they connect people. The third one would be that these people are quite diverse and they work in teams and ecosystems where there is a high diversity. And the fourth characteristic will be that they are entrepreneurs. And we have Ricardo first, Ricardo Garcia, as you can see, right? He's based in Boston. He created the Richie Childhood Cancer Foundation, and he will tell more about why he moved to Boston and why he started the foundation. And currently, he's also the founder and CEO of OncoHeroes Bioscience, where they develop new therapies for children with cancer. In the second place, we have Daniel Martinez, who is in Qatar, and he's working in the Aspire Academy High Performance Center. He's a physiotherapist, and he's the head physiotherapist in this academy. He has long experience in the physiotherapy. He was working previously in Spain. He also won one of the prizes of the Shark Tank last year. He was a mentor, so he will be able to tell us a little bit his experience. And on the third place, we have David Argumosa, who is a Spanish engineer. He studied in the University of Cantabria. Well, I have to say, I don't know where you are currently based, because I know you have been working in Brazil, Denmark, Israel, and India. And he's an amazing entrepreneur. He has been involved in different startups. In 2014, he moved to Brazil to create one. In 2016, he was in Denmark, and he created another startup called ArtStream, very interesting, that you can check in internet. And now, since 2018, he works with JM Edison, working on 2 projects, one about education, that I'm very interested, we should talk about this later, how to bring the best characteristics of the top education ecosystems in the world to different places, and another one about using blockchain to reduce corruption in governments. So I hope somehow I introduced you well. And the way we are going to somehow coordinate this table, as is a little bit complicated being online, is I will make 4 different questions. And in each question, maybe we can make a round, and each of you can respond in about maybe 2 minutes. So then we have time enough to do this 4 round, and then to open for 10 minutes for question. Good?
Right.
Thank you. So I would say the first thing that maybe most of us we are somehow wondering is, what are you currently doing? You are the best ones to explain it. And why did you leave Spain? Maybe Ricardo, so we can follow the order of the Zoom.
All right. So thank you very much for inviting me here. It is a pleasure to share my story with you guys. Lisa, could you please remind me what is the timing for answering the questions? I don't want to just overlap. I want to steal the time from the rest of it.
Like 2 minutes per question?
Okay, all right. So the reason I moved from Spain to Boston is because my son was diagnosed with brain cancer. So he was diagnosed in Spain, in Barcelona, and then we had to look for alternatives. And finally, we had to get in contact with our Cancer Institute, which is one of the most advanced centers in the world in that particular type of cancer. So we moved here. I was almost 8 years ago. So today is a brain cancer survivor, which is good news. He's already 13 years old. And because I'm a serial entrepreneur, I just created my first company when I was 16 years old, and then I've been always just doing this. I felt the need to change things and to make an impact, especially in childhood cancer. And I decided to devote myself for the rest of my life to fight against this disease. And this is why I created first a foundation. It's called the Richie Childhood Cancer Foundation, which is a well-established foundation here in Boston, Massachusetts. So we do have different types of things to support childhood cancer research. But also, I wanted to be a father, and then I decided to create and launch the first biotech company in the world specialized 100% to develop new therapies for children with cancer. And honestly, that happened and that was possible because I landed in Boston, which is a very unique ecosystem, especially if you're thinking about something related to life science sector or clean tech and some other, but especially for life science sector. I think the inspiration that I found it and the support from the entire ecosystem, it was really motivates me to move forward and to set up those projects. And you have to realize that, by the way, I'm not a science guy. I don't have any PhD, so no idea about life science. But because of the people and the support that I've got from the entire ecosystem, this allows me just to move forward and accept the challenge to launch this company. So that was the reason, and this is what I'm doing right now. I'm pretty much focused into basically, overseeing and develop the activity of the foundation and currently, raising the money and money for the biotech company.
Thank you, Ricardo. Daniel, if you want.
Well, speaking after Ricardo and his story is quite difficult because what can I say after that? How can I consider myself an innovator after such an amazing story? So my story is a little bit different. I'm a sports physiotherapist, and I worked in Spain in sports world always. And a few years ago, like almost 5 years ago, I got the opportunity of coming and work in Aspetar, which is one of the reference centers in the world of sports medicine. It's here in Qatar because, as you probably know, Football World Cup will be held in Qatar in 2022. So they've been investing a lot of money in bringing here the best people in each field, sports field, from sports medicine to coaches to sports science and so on. So I got an offer to come and join. Of course, it was a great opportunity to, first of all, talking about the job, it's an amazing opportunity to not only as a job itself, but as the people you work with, which I think is one of the most important things here, is those people you were reading books about, you were reading their papers, you had them as reference, they are now your colleagues, and you have the opportunity of working in a unique team. And I think this is probably one of the best things here, is our ecosystem is top leading, world leading people in their fields. So this was the reason for moving here. So I'm working in a sports academy, taking care of the athletics team, track and field team. In a few months, we'll have the World Championships here in Qatar. So it's more or less what I do here. Now I lead the physiotherapy department with people from over 12 countries, which is a very, very good experience, as well as a difficult one. And as you said, I participated in the Shark Tank contest last year with a couple of mentees from the foundation, and we're still working on the project we started last year. So this is more or less my experience with innovation and ecosystems in the world.
Thank you, Daniel. David.
Okay, thank you so much first for inviting me here. And answering the questions. So why I left Spain is basically because I'm a civil engineer. So I studied civil engineering in Spain, and I was working as a structural engineer. But I saw that I could not progress perfectly, and it was kind of complicated. And at the same time, it was all this crisis going on. And I had the idea of starting a company. And with a couple of friends, we started a project. We were selected by the MIT, and we were invited there. And so this opened me a huge opportunity. Then I got funded by the Santander Bank to go to Brazil. So I just decided to move to Brazil. I stayed there for 6 months. Then the company didn't work. Then I decided to move to Denmark. I started another company. Then from there I went to Israel. From Israel to India. I was 1 year living in India. Then I was also back in Spain. And I was just developing the company in Spain. And at the same time, I was studying a master's in Spain. And that's basically what I've been doing. And after that, I just sold the stake of the company that I had, the one that I started in Denmark. And after that, we are now starting another company that we founded in Tallinn, in Estonia. And with this company that we just write proposals for European funding. On the same time, we are developing 2 projects. One is Skills for Life. We are trying to get all the best education from different ecosystems in the world back to Spain. And on the other side, we are developing a blockchain character kind of system to avoid corruption in governments. So that's basically.
Mm-hmm. I think all of you somehow have remarked that you are working in an ecosystem of innovation. So what will be the main characteristics of that ecosystem, especially in your discipline? So for us to understand how we can define it and what are the main highlights.
All right, so I think it's my turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would say I've been in different ecosystems like this one in Boston, but I think what it really makes Boston different than any other thing on any other ecosystem that I've seen before is a combination of not just one thing. So you hear sometimes when you go to an ecosystem that, that ecosystem, they do have a lot of money. So this one has a lot of talent. So this has a lot of incubators or support from the government. So in that case, is that Boston has all of them. So this is what I think it makes this different. It's because you've got the best talent ever because you've got, there are more than 100 different universities in Boston. And of course, you have the top best universities. One of them is the MIT, which is very well known everywhere. And then the pool of talented people and students with a lot of ideas and capabilities, it's outstanding. I mean, you can just walk around Boston and you find everywhere PhDs and engineers everywhere. So it's really outstanding. And also, then there is a combination of the industry. So the industry works very close to the universities. So every time there is an interesting talent or project or something coming out from the university, you can see the industry landing, quickly and trying to get in contact with these people and trying to see what we can do to help you guys. So this is a different approach than we used to have, for instance, in Spain. So that, sometimes it's more complicated to move, from a university to industry. And I would say there is 2 other interesting things. The third one is the support from the government. So the government injects a lot of money continuously to the sector and to the ecosystem, so that makes things happening quickly. And of course, attracts international interest and attracts, everything is the perfect magnet for putting it all together. And the last is, I think, it's the mentality. So when you are in a place where everybody is thinking to make an impact and change the world, and it's all about inspiration. So it's kind of just feeling that you are competing in a good way. And because every time you're meeting with somebody, so it's because the people that is around here is thinking about doing something, or just launch a company, or create, a new product, or save the lives of a lot of people by inventing a vaccine or a new medication. So I think it's those things combined is what makes, Boston very unique compared to other locations in the world.
Thank you, Ricardo. Daniel, what about Qatar?
Yeah, I think, as well as he said, that Boston is pretty unique, and I feel Qatar is even more unique because we are here living something that is, I don't know if it's ever happened or if it will ever happen again, that the country is built just for a single event, which is the World Cup. And this creates an amazing feeling here in all the fields, because I work in sports, and it's the whole country developing for sports, the whole country, government, and people expecting results and so on, and you feel like in the center of everything, with good and bad things, pressure and so on. But the feeling you have here is that we live in a country in which 92% of the population, we are foreigners. And we are, let's say, it's a 2.7 million people country in which only 200 people are locals. So the feeling that being a foreigner, but being part of the development of the country is really great, because you have every 2 months there is a new road, a metro, buildings, skyscrapers. Within 10 years, this whole country has changed dramatically. And you don't realize until you live here. I think we all in Spain, during the early 2000s, we saw all our cities growing quite a lot. But compared to this, it's nothing. We have all the feeling of building a whole country and a whole culture. And I agree with Ricardo that one of the things is mentality. We are all innovators here. We've been brought here because we are good in our fields. From engineers to constructors to pilots, everything. And I think this is one of the common things of all the innovation environments is the mentality. Like innovation brings innovation, and it's like something contagious. And it's one of the things I feel. Sports usually doesn't respond to logical rules. And sometimes when you are winning, you keep winning just because you have that inertia. And this is one of the things that is happening here. Things started working recently, and we see them working because there's a lot of work behind, but also because there's the culture of moving, of changing, and of people being involved and really integrated in the whole project.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Daniel. David, well, you have been working and living in many.
Yeah, well, I agree that the mentality of people is one of the keys. So I will just say about Singapore and also about Israel. Israel, I think, is the most interesting place I've ever lived. But starting by Singapore, well, Singapore has some characteristics. That is, like 80% of the population, they are Chinese. But however, you cannot use Singapore to enter China. I mean, entering China, if you plan to start a company in China, it's kind of complicated to starting in Singapore. So if you see the biggest companies such as Facebook, they have their headquarters in Asia, based in Singapore, but it's not for access in China. It's in fact for access in South Asia. Like Indonesia is a huge market. And Singapore is kind of a complicated place. I mean, it's amazing because salaries are huge, and then the education is really high and is really good, but it's mainly focusing on marketing. And right now, I was just getting feedback that it's going to be in a recession in the next year or in a couple of years. And they are trying to attract more engineers. And about Israel, that I wanted to pay attention to this ecosystem. I just belong to an European ecosystem, bringing just companies that want to go to Silicon Valley. So I belong to this system in Tallinn. And with the last 3 months ago, we visited San Francisco, and they were pointing out Israel as the future Silicon Valley in the world. And it's mainly because, I guess, the mentality of Israelis. Israelis, when I was living there, they have this mentality that working for some company is like making you feel worse than other people. So if you see big companies such as Facebook, they are, the founder, Zuckerberg, is Jew, and so many companies, it's founded by Jews. Many Jews, they have this mentality of, I'm going to create something because I work for wherever I like or wherever I feel, and not, I'm not going to allow myself to work for another one. And I think that's key of Israel.
Thank you, David. So, but although you are working in ecosystem of innovation, I know that you are connecting with other ecosystems. So could you give us an example of how you connect ecosystems and what are the benefits, but also the challenges? Because I'm sure it's not easy to work with different people and different ecosystems, different places.
Yeah, it's just, in my case, how I'm contributing to connect Boston with other ecosystems in the world is we decided to set up something in the foundation to help us raise funds and awareness that is called the Boston Immersion program. So what we do is we help companies on life science and clean tech, on entrepreneurs, I would say, from all around the world to come and connect with the Boston MSU ecosystem by doing this program. And then in that case, since we started from the very beginning, that was 4 years ago, I think the summer 2016, we've been able to evaluate more than 300 projects from all around the world, which include startups and entrepreneurs, and gave the opportunity to 51, entrepreneurs to come and connect with the Boston innovation ecosystem. And, it is really amazing how you see people coming here and compare, what's going on, what's the best and what's the worst from each ecosystem, because some of them are coming from other existing ecosystems in other countries. But it's interesting to see, and this is something that is related to what I mentioned before, is that I don't think there is one better than other. I think that, it's one more specific for something than others. And this is what is important for everybody in the audience to really, if you guys are planning to develop a project, I think the most important part is to pick what is going to be the best ecosystem for you. So this is what we do with entrepreneurs that are coming to Boston. So we try to help them to identify whether this is the best ecosystem for you or not, or whether you should just try to pursue, your dream on your project within another ecosystem. In Boston, it's also interesting to see how there are so many different consulates from 60 different countries working towards attracting, people from their countries to Boston. So I think it's the best time that I've seen that the government in this area, in this state, it's only focused into bringing people from abroad to the country and to the state instead of the other way. So you tend to see that governments invest into internationalization, right? So to set up offices internationally in other countries and make an effort to try to help the local entrepreneurs to go and move abroad. So this is just in the other way. So there is no $1 spent into doing this, but it's everything, focused into supporting people coming from other countries and other locations. So there is a lot of programs where you can see how Boston works with other ecosystems in all different institutions. So the universities working together, incubators, ecosystems, even government working together to try to exchange as much as possible the information from each other. So I think, this is the way that we try to contribute to, connect ecosystems from all around the world.
Thank you, Ricardo.
Yeah, in my case, this is something which is, I think it's happening every day. I work with, as I said, with many different nationalities. So on a daily basis, we are already connecting many ecosystems, many backgrounds, many different cultures, which is nice, it's good. But the reality is that sometimes it's very difficult. And I will just put an example that happened yesterday. We are trying to develop it's a clinical tool for measuring pain and function in different injuries. And it's an Australian physio and me, Spanish. So one of the things we use is the patient has to report pain 0 to 10. So how much pain do you have today? 0 is nothing, 10 is the maximum pain you can ever imagine. So we were discussing, because in Australia it's quite common, because I've also been there, and a normal patient can really rate accurately and tell you he has 8.5 or 7.2. While in Spain, if you think how we are, how our culture is, nobody will say 7.5 or 2.2. Someone would say 0, 5 or 10, no? It's part of our culture. And what we were discussing is that where we work, which is here in Qatar, they are Arabs, the local athletes, they are Arabs, and their culture is totally opposite. They don't measure things. They don't rate things. They don't even know what time it is right now. So when you try to build this kind of tool from an Australian guy, Spanish guy, to be put in an Arab country, it will never work. Because we have to understand that each place is totally different. And whatever can be very valid in the US, in Australia, in France, wherever, maybe it's not valid somewhere else. I think this is one of our challenges, is someone else said, is to apply wherever you are and to use for whatever you want to use it for. And one more example of how I connect, as you mentioned, I participated in this Shark Tank last year with one engineer and one sports scientist, same, to develop a rehabilitation tool for sports and so on. In this case, culture is the same. The device is quite easy to design and to develop. But we have another problem, which is distance. And distance is everyone works in a different place with different commitments, and it's not easy to connect people that don't know each other. And even if you have a common goal or a project, some people, our engineer, which is the one that is developing the most important phase now, just changed his job and he moved houses. So it's not his main priority right now. So the whole project is stopped because in one of the steps, someone is not able to provide everything. So this is our reality, and this is the difficulties we are facing.
Thank you, Daniel. David.
Yeah, so in my case, I belong to several networks, just connecting people. So I will just mention a couple of them. The first one is the European ecosystem that we just help people, companies in Tallinn, and we connect them to people in Silicon Valley. So in this case, the French Tech Hub is really active. So if you somehow want to move to Silicon Valley or have some contacts there, the French Tech Hub is really active in this sense, and it's managing more or less all the program. And the program is called Start Europe. And another ecosystem, like a network that I belong to, is the Singularity University Network in Denmark. So I think it's one of the best networks I belong to. And it's not because they know like a lot of things, but it's because they really want to learn a lot. And I have been working with them for a long time, just almost 3 years. And I find out that mainly Nordic people from Denmark, from Sweden, or from Norway, they love learning new things much more than what I have seen in Spain. And at the same time, they are really, really good communicators. And they have this kind of, when you talk to them and when they communicate, they generate a lot of trust. And that's extremely important when you try to communicate an idea. And another of the networks that I would like to point out is Theatre. So when I was living in Bangalore in India, I just took this train journey that I recommend to all of you. That is 15 days by train. With like it's the conditions are not good at all, and you go all around India by 15 days, and you meet a lot of people. You just take a look at different ecosystems, entrepreneurial ecosystems in all India. And it's the journey that Gandhi made when they were building India, the new India. And we connect people from, Indian people from everywhere in the world, even European people, American people, and many from Indian origin. And they come, they just provide the contacts, they try to help India. And I think that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We are going to open now for questions. Maybe we can do a round of 3. I'm going to start doing one while we move the micro, and maybe you can answer it while you answer all of them. The last one was how somehow Spain and Portugal could benefit of these connections that you are doing, and where do you see, I don't know, like gaps, opportunities, etc. Right? That this is actually the work that IMFAHE is promoting. So maybe do you have any other questions? So maybe we can answer. They can answer a round of 2 or 3. Yeah, there are 2 there.
Okay. So Ricardo, I wonder how he feels and how is his child.
Ricardo, did you hear the question? No. Well, a person asked. Yeah.
I like to know how do you feel now.
He's asking. Yeah, he's asking how is your child? How does it feel? And so.
All right, so yeah, first of all, thank you very much. I think it's the question that I most appreciate every time I'm participating. So thank you, and a round of applause for this. This person is really appreciated. So, Richie is good. He feels good. Yeah, a lot of side effects, a lot going on. It's a never-ending story, but we're happy together, enjoy life every time. So thank you for asking me. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay, my question is mostly related with the connection of the companies with the universities. What is the difference and what can we do as students in order to improve, such as the Boston environment, Qatar, and so on? So, like they say, the environment is really good and there are plenty of connections between the companies and the universities. So I would like to know, what can we do to improve?
Do you hear it? Let me paraphrase it. You mentioned that you as a student, how you can improve the connection between the university and the companies?
Or how in Spain and Portugal you can do it. Yes.
Did you get it? So basically one of our students is asking between the relationship between companies and universities and how in Spain, in Portugal, the students can somehow contribute to strengthen, to closer that connection. Yeah, go ahead.
I would say, let me say something. That's me, and I always love to talk. I would say, first of all, is just be a pain in the ass on your university. So, yes.
we have vice deans here, by the way.
Okay, that's okay, that's fine. They're going to love me anyway. So this is the first thing I would do. I would suggest you really, prove them that you're really motivated and you really want to do this. This is, prove and show your passion. And of course, your abilities, they're supposed to be, you have some abilities. But there is also a lot of, and I know, there is a lot of universities because I know very well, a couple universities here, and I do know that they have some international programs. And those in universities like MIT or Harvard, some of them, they are in contact with some universities in Spain and Portugal trying to establish, international program partnerships so that, students from universities localized in Spain and other countries, they can just develop their projects here in Boston, as well as, I think there is a lot of interest from the Office of Technology Transfer Offices from the universities to learn from, how, technology transfer offices here work in the US and Boston, and now, they support students. I would say, the first thing is to try to identify within your university if there is some of those existing projects opening with other universities in other ecosystems like Boston or Qatar or something else.
One of the things I usually tell to my mentees when I have the opportunity is don't be afraid. I mean, use any single opportunity to connect people, to meet people, to travel, I think all these things that we are usually when we are students, we think of the official way. I mean, where can I go through my university or through an official program or so on? I think most of the most relevant people in history didn't go through the official way. They tried to find their own way. And I think this is whenever you want to hire someone or to find someone interesting to work with you, I don't know what's your experience, but when I look at the CV, I look for the differential factor. Not for everyone has nowadays. Everyone has a master's degree. Many people has a PhD, but there are some things that you cannot measure, some things that you cannot see until you don't. As he said, you are not a pain in the ass, and you go somewhere and show your face and are around and try to push people and try to show who you are. So my advice is don't be afraid.
Yes, so I would say that a really important thing is just to generate the company some kind of that they really need you. So if you are a really good marketer and you know at least how to do that, I think you can achieve whatever you want. Even if you can select the company that you really want to work with and just approach them in a way that they really feel that they need you. And you just show them the problem that they have and just try to tackle this problem in a way that you are the one to solve this problem. And it really works. Just doing some research and just marketing yourself. And of course, what you guys pointed out, that you really need to go and show up there. So in Spain, I have that feeling that we don't have this kind of feeling of just going there and say, I want to do this thing and be kind of aggressive, let's say. For example, it was a case in which some researchers, they were just wanting to go with someone from Oxford, and it was in a meeting, and all the ones were around just looking at this researcher because he was just talking to someone else. So it was this Mexican guy that just went through all the queue and started just pointing in front of him, just staring more or less at him, and at that time the guy just looked at him and said, yeah, and he said, yeah, I wanted to just work with you, blah, blah, blah. So that's the way he just got a scholarship or something like that for 2-3 years. It was 2 million or something like that. So you need to do this as well.
Thank you.
I want to add something to all of these comments that are super useful. For example, in Boston, something that drives a lot of collaborations between universities and companies is that the universities develops platforms that are very helpful for then the companies to test drugs. So I'm sure that now this is something that will be totally funded from the horizon. The European Commission is looking for translational, not only through basic research mechanisms and works, is try to develop things that are useful for preclinical studies, and then you can start doing collaborations with pharmas from Switzerland. That will bring a lot of funding and a lot of relationships with companies. And in Boston is something that is extended. Maybe you think that the students, I remember my PhD student who was at the Harvard program, she was taking one subject, one course, and in that course she had the opportunity to do a rotation in a pharmaceutical company. But those are the minors. Usually are the students who are very, very proactive, like they said, like try to go to companies, try to do an internship. You have a lot of summers ahead and so many vacations, so try to use that time or combine with your PhD. So the proactivity will be key. It's not that the universities are going to do everything for you. You have to be the person who is going to make the difference in your CV and in your profile. And then through you also, then the collaborations will start burning and you will be able to develop more and more. So it's not like a formula, it's more like there is a lot of talent people in Boston, there are a lot of universities, a lot of companies, and just because all of them are in the ecosystem, then it's more easy to identify more actors to play movies with them. But
I have to say as well, as a personal experience, that working with different people is kind of addictive. I met IMFAHE in 2015 when I started studying a master in Harvard. And before that, I spent 10 years working in different countries in international development. I worked with the United Nations 5 years in Ethiopia, 1 in Sri Lanka, 2 in Peru. And after finishing my master, I said, well, I'm back to Spain. I'm not sure if for living forever, but to connect with the Spanish networks, because every country that I work and I live, somehow I'm leaving all my connections on all the work that I did. I left it in Ecuador, I left it in Ethiopia, but then I don't connect because I never come back to those countries, but I always come back to Spain. So I decided to base my workplace in Madrid. But my problem last year was that although I was working based in Madrid, all my projects were with people out from Madrid. So I was working with IMFAHE, that many of them were based in Boston. I was working with a Spaniard who worked in the World Bank in Washington with a project in Peru. I work with the Innovation Agency of San Sebastián, analyzing the innovation ecosystem. So although I came to Madrid or to my land, however, my work again was with people from other places. So once you get in this kind of interaction and connections, is a trend that you can't stop. And if you don't mind, this is something so cool to be moderating this panel that I'm going to take the benefit of having a selfie. Because, you know, I mean, having a selfie with people here, and actually maybe with the selfie you can see how many people are in the audience. Can you see them? You can, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so please, could you raise your hands so somehow it's a little bit more cool? Okay. Wait, I'm going to focus. Yeah, that's... Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ricardo, Daniel, David. It's a real pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you very much. This is the best picture of the conference. So moving forward to the last step. So yesterday, if you remember, we have a super cool activity in La Laguna, about networking, doing teams, and getting points. I want to welcome the organizers of this activity. Please join me with a big applause. Thank you very much to all of them. And they are going to announce the winners of this activity. Please come here.
So, first of all, in the name of the organizers of the treasure hunt, we want to thank you all because you have done an amazing job, so committed to this activity, and we hope you had a great time yesterday and that you enjoyed and know a little more about our city, about La Laguna. So, checking all the photos and the mini challenge you did yesterday, there's one team that almost completed all the activities and all the mini challenge. So the team number 5 won, who members are Laura Barrero, Laura Contreras Ruiz, Alejandro Marín Menéndez, Mariam Colani, Jorge Gayud, and Sara Osquiano. So come here.
So well done.
I just hope you find very useful this activity, because it looks like it's a joke of activity, the treasure hunt, but it's actually very, very useful for now. You feel like friends forever since this activity. So the real day of the conference is this relaxed environment, so everyone knows each other. So we are happy. I want to especially thank the organizers, so please came to the stage. All of you, Carolina, that was from last year, Brian, Anna, thank you so much for all your effort. There are two others organizers that were not able to make it because they have an important course here at La Laguna, Anna and Tamara, and also this applause for them.
No, pero ya Okay, so now we're going to announce the winners. Well, I don't want to call it winners because I think that you all have to have the feeling that you have done a great job. It was really hard. I can tell you that I actually have been the opportunity to talk with some of the groups and other teams, and this time has been really hard. So I think that we should go on doing these kind of things because I think that the results are getting better and better. So, and well, basically I'm just gonna present the different awards, but I really encourage you to continue doing it. If you get it, great, but if not, I think that all the ideas are really worth it. So go on, you have to apply to others. So actually, someone was asking me about these kind of programs and how to find information about them, so we will actually try to work on them and give you a list, because I think that it will be a good opportunity to all of you to continue, and sometimes it's just a matter that not everybody can just get the prize even if they deserve it. Okay, so first of all, the modality, including professor, there was only one group, so in this case it was easy, so I really encourage university to promote this and for next year to have more participants. So in this case, it was the group with groups from people from Universidad, Politécnica of Valencia, Málaga, Oviedo, and Imperial College. So, well. Okay. Oh, yeah, we don't have like such an award, but yeah, but keep it here because we're gonna be adding. Yeah. Okay. So
Okay. Yeah. Second, we have created a special award, in this case, as a social award for the cycling project. Cycling. So, okay, so next, there are going to be now the 3 from modality A with mentees and mentors. So the third prize goes to the UVM project. So I think that's in this case. So it's from the University of Autónoma of Madrid and also from Singular with Daniel. So thank you. So I think that I have seen 2 of them walking. So I don't know if they are at the restroom or something, because I just saw them before, so I thought, okay. They had to leave. Okay. Good. Okay, so second prize for the winter project, so with people from University of Aveiro, Valladolid, and okay, and last, and I tell you that if you are not in this group, actually you deserve to be. So, but the first prize goes to the My Sweet Health. So actually, I think that it's really great. We didn't do it on purpose, but we were checking, and I think that most of the universities that part of the program somehow are represented. So I think that that was something that actually is good, because I think that you have made an effort just to collaborate and to connect with different groups. So in this case, so we have Seville, Laguna. So I think that is great, and if for those who are not here, I think that you also deserve an applause, because I think that you made a really Okay, great. So I think that we should have a picture. I don't know if we can move over there. Maybe with the I don't know.
All right, so I don't have such a nice slide, but I want to thank you all for doing such a great job today with the speech. I know it's not easy to tell your thing in 2 minutes. You did all great. We had to choose one, and it was really difficult, but the Best Oral Presentation Award goes to Alfonso Peñarroya.
Congratulations. You did great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now is the moment of the fellowships that you are waiting for. And to that! So we want to invite, if it's possible, representatives from the universities who are making possible these fellowships. So be very proud because your universities are making possible this fellowship, okay? So please, from University Europea Miguel de Cervantes, if you are here, University of Valladolid, please join us. So you can give the Carmen, of course, University of La Laguna, Málaga, Autónoma de Madrid, Sevilla. Please join us to give these fellowships. So here you have Europea Miguel de Cervantes, Sevilla, Málaga. Yes.
Primero empieza.
Málaga. Sevilla is not here. Okay. Bueno, pues lo damos nosotros.
¿No está Fernando? Pues las da Safira.
Sí. Muy bien. Y de Valladolid. Aquí tienes. Y aquí tenéis las de la Laguna. Entonces ahora vamos a anunciar. Sí. So, the winners of the 2018-19 fellowships, I have to say it has been so difficult because you are so good. So it took so many of us in the, like in the committee, in the evaluation, taking a lot of days, putting a lot of rounds of extra work to determine who are the winners. At the end, 10 days ago, we knew who were the finalists, and what we were doing is starting to contact with the winners and starting to think in the plan where they want to go. So this is what we did. A couple of days ago, we started to be in contact with outstanding institutions. More than 50% of them wants to go to Harvard and MIT, and we already received positive comments from hosting centers from Harvard and MIT, and we are starting to develop the conversations. So these are the winners. Congratulations to everybody. From University Europea, Miguel de Cervantes, Laura Barrero Santiago, who is here to receive it, and Beatriz is going to give them. Enhorabuena.
Muchas gracias.
So, from University of Málaga, Francesca Cascone, who wants to go to MIT. Francesca? Is not here. Okay. From University of Sevilla, Nieves Lara. It's true that not everybody was here attending, unfortunately. From University Politécnica de Valencia is Raimon Calaput, who was not able to attend. Verónica Miguel, who is here from Universidad Autónoma de Madrid. We had the conversations with Harvard University. Patricia Mikalska from University Autónoma de Madrid, who was not able to attend. Noah Feas from University of Valladolid, who is here. And she wants to go to Brigham, who we are talking already, and Harvard University. Enhorabuena. Sara Uzquiano, here he is from University of Valladolid. Congratulations, Laura. question to you. Laura Barrero from University of Valladolid. I'm not sure if she's able to be. Carmen Carbella from University of La Laguna. Congratulations. We are talking to MIT.
Enhorabuena.
Génesis Palacios from University of La Laguna. Congratulations, Génesis. And Judith Hernandez from University of La Laguna. Okay, so congratulations, and again, you have to be very proud of the efforts that your universities are doing, because this is because of them, okay? So thank you very much to all of the universities for making possible these internships in outstanding centers, and congratulations, and we hope that you bridge new collaborations with your professors, your institutions in the coming year. Thank you. Maria, do you want to introduce the IMFAHE Women in STEM Fellowship? This is the last one. Yeah? Está bien. Okay, and as you know, we are trying to promote the presence of women in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, and maths, and entrepreneurship fields where they are not highly represented. So that's why this year, again, we were launching a 3-month internship abroad, and this is totally funded by IMFAHE Foundation. Again, it was super hard. We were very proud because we saw a lot of women in the project this year, so it looks like the balance is going towards emphasizing the presence of women in the project because of this. There were 4 finalists. We are going to share with you the name of the finalists. And again, we were a committee of 7 different people one Sunday struggling about who deserves to be the winner. So it was a small difference just by decimals between all of you. I want to congratulate because you were putting amazing CVs, personal statements. So you were working very hard and make very difficult choosing the winner. And here is the winner that we want to introduce you because she was not able to make it. So her name is Yolanda Larriba, from a PhD student from University of Valladolid. Do you know her? Okay.
Hi everybody, I'm Yolanda from Universidad de Valladolid. How are you doing? I hope you are enjoying the conference in La Laguna. It's a wonderful location for a meeting. Much better than Valladolid, at least regarding weather condition.
I don't know why it's not.
Well, I'm extremely excited because some days ago, Maria and Zafira contacted me to announce that I was the winner of IMFAHE's Women in STEM Fellowship. Firstly, I would like to express my gratitude to IMFAHE's program, especially to Maria and Zafira. Thank you very much. And also, I would like to thank my mentor, Pedro Blequa, for the support received and for all his help preparing this IMFAHE's application. I think that this initiative, like IMFAHE's program, are very valuable but also needed. Why are they needed? Well, I haven't said, but I'm a mathematician, so now we are going to talk about number, but just a little, I promise. I think that nobody is surprised if I tell that STEM careers are male-dominated. For instance, in Spain, only 15% of engineers graduated are female. And this percentage slowly rose up until 19% for graduates in technology or math, like me. But don't worry, numbers are there and we are here to change them. I'm totally sure that we are going to do it. Well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm convinced that this great opportunity to go abroad, to go to the USA, to make a research step in a top-ranked institution will allow me to be in touch with renowned researchers, to explore new research areas, to expand my network, and that all this will positively impact in my research career. Well, it's time to say goodbye. Thanks again, everybody. I wish I could have attended to the conference, but I couldn't, pity. But please benefit from this opportunity that you have to be there, make new colleagues, and learn so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So right now we are talking with Harvard University, who is willing to host her. Okay, so just moving to the end, we would like to take a group picture. It looks like Carmen was suggesting to do it in the stairs. It will be more beautiful. Everybody will show up with their faces. So we will wait until the end of the conference to go over there. And just the last remark of this conference, we are doing very good on time. It's surprising. So to do that, I would like to ask Carmen to join me.
Thank you, Safira. Thank you to all IMFAHE team and all the universities, students, and all friends that have been here. It's been an amazing day. We have shared different roundtables, experiences, lunches, coffees, and we have talked enough about innovation. We haven't talked that much about internationalization, but I'm totally convinced that you all know that it's a common joint project that many Spanish universities share. So previously we were talking that some of us do really independent activities that we usually share, but this is a joint activity that we are doing together as the ones we are going to do the last 2 days of this week during the CRUE Internationalization and Cooperation meeting, where 86 Spanish universities are coming to La Laguna to work in internationalization, to work in language policy, international cooperation, internationalization at home, mobility, etc. So you are the product of this, let's see, compromise motivation that we all have to internationalize our institutions, and we have the help and the support from foundations and associations as IMFAHE, built and devoted to contribute to the Spanish science and the promotion of our country and our societies. So thank you, Safira. Thank you to all the students. Thank you to all the mentors that could not attend. And I'm very happy that the journey finished as well as we thought. And I'm sure the dinner is even going to be better. So thank you for the networking. I just wanted to ask the students from the University of La Laguna to stand up a moment, because I really want to count them. Can you stand up, just the students from the University of La Laguna? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wonderful, great. I love you all. But I must say that I am really surprised by the low number of students attending, because I have 28 students joining this year's program, and I guess they are in their labs, working with mice and analytical techniques. But this was a really great opportunity, and And, you know, it was a great job of my team, my staff in the internationalization vice-rectorate to really organize this meeting. We have been working hard to make this possible, along with IMFAHE students. So please sit down again, and I'm really going to write to the ones that did not attend to ask them why, and let's put a minus, you know, in the CV. I cannot do it, but well, anyway. So thank you so much, and Safira, now you do the closing remarks. Then.
Thank you very much, Carmen. So I didn't prepare all of this. It has been a very long day, and I hope that we have been inspiring you as much as you were inspiring us, and that you learn so much like we learn. It's amazing to come back to our country and see all of the faces and see all of the talent that is burning and growing and developing in the country. We have to be super proud of the education that we are giving to the next generations in Spain, in Portugal, and in the coming countries that are going to join this global network. We want to keep growing thanks to your criticisms. We think that we can be better every year, and only can happen if we receive your feedback. So that's why every year we are trying to do new things. Remember that the next year you will not be part of IMP, but you will be part of alumni. And there are big efforts from the foundation to enroll you and to be part of these new initiatives. Also, the next year we are going to try to improve and implement our online platform, and we are going to apply artificial intelligence in order to help you to identify new collaborators in the world in the platform. We will try to bring to our global network, now that is becoming more European, and we will try to bring new colleagues from different countries. European Commission was really impressed and was offering the European Commission rooms to develop new initiatives and to bring more universities. So you have to be so proud of what you are doing and what you are making possible. And I think that during the day, a lot of people was trying to tell you, you are the best asset that we have, you are the talent, you are our future, and you can leave the world better than we leave it. So try to keep the world, to change the world, because you can do it. So thank you, and I hope that everybody enjoys in the dinner. Thank you for joining us.
So if we just go out to the main lobby, we will take a photo first from the first floor. So everyone stay here in the first floor where we had the coffee and lunch, and then we'll stay in the stairs to take a photo from downstairs. Okay, 2 photos.
Tú también, Carmen. Ya está. Sí.